Hi, I'm Dave Henning with the Fresh Start Podcast, fresh ideas for business and personal growth. And today I'm really excited to have my guest, Leon Streete from Wolverhampton, UK. Welcome for joining me today.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here, Dave. I'm looking forward to this interview.
You are a business owner on a mission to help more businesses succeed. I love that because that's what we all need. That's been my passion for years and years and years, of just helping the large propensity of small business owners who make up the majority of the marketing out there. So
Yeah.
you've taken businesses from startups to their first sales to six figures to seven-figure results. So that's
hmm
awesome. So talk to me then about some of the things how did you get started? Just tell me that.
It's funny you say you're a DJ because I was a DJ in the more traditional music sense. And in 1994, when I was 14, I started the hobby of becoming a DJ playing vinyl, 12-inch vinyl.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it just came out of my love for music. And that progressed. And by the time I was 17, 1997, the internet was fast becoming something to pay attention to. And I had this bright idea as a 70-year-old to create my own website so I could market myself further. And that's how I got into marketing, Dave. I set up my first website in 2 days. I started to put MP3 mixes of what I would play on pirate radio back then. And those mixes would be widely available online. And then eventually the record labels whose records that I was promoting started asking, well, who created the website? Like, thank you for supporting our records, but who did the website? And one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was creating websites. And then the next logical step was, well, now we got the website, how do we get more customers? And that's how the marketing really picked up for me. So it's actually my career or hobby career in DJing, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was my passion in high school. That's what I wanted to be. I could, at nighttime in the old AM radio days, I could pick up a radio station from Chicago over in Rochester,
Wow.
New York on my little AM transistor radio. And I thought, man, I want to be a disc jockey. So,
Yeah.
first professional gig in Kansas City in the 1970s, got the
Wow.
morning drive. And we had vinyl, we had cart machines and reel to reel machines and all the old school stuff. And then
Yeah.
over time, I worked at some stations where I had to learn the digital programming and operations. A
Mm,
couple of different talk shows at different stations, and worked in a lot of different markets in Boston and San Francisco and around the country. So it's been kind
that
of a
sounds
blast.
amazing.
Yeah, so and eventually I taught at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting how to do copywriting and sales,
Oh, cool.
interesting stuff, which I never imagined, just evolved because of my background. But all that to say,
Yeah.
there's an old expression that radio gets in your blood. So when James Mulvaney came out with radio.co, the first thing was I started my own rock and roll radio station with software, his software.
Ah,
And then he promoted his podcast.co, and he says, hey, why don't you beta test this? And I was one of the first 500 to get on that. And as you know, it's blown up to over, I think it's
mm,
25,000 podcasters on there now.
yeah.
So
That's
anyway,
amazing.
yeah, and it's interesting how we have a similar background in that
Mhm.
respect, because vinyl made a big comeback, by the way.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I've still probably got some in the region of about 2,000 of them in my garage, which I've actually got to try and get rid of in the next month because my wife says it's time to let them go now. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. Originally, I probably had something like 5,000, but I managed to get rid of half so far and sell them over the years. But I've got the last few lingering and I need to get rid of them.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like something my wife said to me. I had to get rid of my boxes and boxes of albums. I was working for one station up in upstate New York that was a big band station, and they could not get the copyright for the syndicated big band. So they'd fly down to New York City and go to all these shops and get
Yeah.
all this big old vinyl stuff from way back when.
Mm.
And the main DJ, he had them mostly at his house. All of his kitchen cupboards were filled with vinyl albums.
I can imagine. I've had friends like that, so I understand, Dave.
But big band, I've been in all different types of formats. It was just a lot of fun. Those were the fun days.
They
And I'm
were.
having fun now. Of course, I'm doing a lot more marketing stuff
Mhm.
myself. But did you actually ever see the classic movie Pirate Radio, by the way, which which was a
No, I haven't. But there were a lot of documentaries, especially from the UK, because pirate radio was obviously a big thing with the ships that were just off the coast of the UK back. I forgot when it was like 60s or whenever it was. But I've watched documentaries over the years. But I cut my cloth in 1995, 15-year-old on pirate radio. It was FM in my local city. But for me, it was like, wow. I've arrived. Everybody in my city can hear me now.
Yeah, and you get out at least a mile and a half. Or whatever.
We had a pretty good transmitter actually, because the guy who owned it, and we actually would go 10 miles, so we actually covered the city, so it was pretty cool. Yeah,
really cool, very cool. So back to you. You do something called VORTEX, the VORTEX Method. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So one of the big things that I guess we all go through as we unlock more of wanting to become a success and understanding what holds us back. Over the years, as I kind of pressed further forward into the question of what is true success in marketing and how do you get there, I kind of just dive deeper into helping coaches, consultants, and small business owners. And eventually I just stumbled across, the steps that helped people to get there. And the VORTEX method was my first step into, I guess, kind of formulating the methods that I was using. Because people would say, Leon, how did you do that? And then eventually, because I was running a marketing agency like 8 years ago, Dave. And what I realized is that my really good clients, my A player clients, they were the ones who they waited on every word that I said. Yeah. And they listened and executed on the things that I put in place, and I helped them. And I realized, hey, I'm onto something here. I need to coach rather than just deliver services. And so 7 years ago, I made the decision to become a marketing coach, a visionary marketing coach. And then the method started to unfold. The more I coached people and saw them putting my methods in place after coaching them, the results started to come through. And so it was very simple in its execution of the method, not in the application, but the execution of the method, is that first you've got to focus on who's your niche. So the audience. In America, I know you guys say niche, but get very focused on who is that avatar, what do they look like, and get clear on what are their frustrations, fears, wants, and aspirations. And that was the first step. And then from there, you take what you understand about their frustrations, fears, wants, and aspirations, and you start to develop an irresistible offer to solve the problem that they have with the services that you can offer them. And then from there, once you have that irresistible offer, it's about getting out on the various channels to put your message, your offer in front of, obviously, your target niche. And from there, it's then conversion, which then moves from marketing into sales. And so that in its simple form is the VORTEX method. And I've applied it into so many verticals over the years, Dave, from coaching, life coaching, consulting, business consulting, health, beauty. Right now, I have a client in the foster care industry, and we're using the same method. People always say, but will that work in my industry? And I always say, because we're dealing with humans, marketing is about psychology. So therefore, it's about principles of psychology. And a lot of people don't understand this at first. And when I explain this to them, is that all we're trying to do is persuade a human being to believe in the offer that we're going to put in front of them. And once they get it, it clicks. And, that's how I apply the method, Dave.
And I love the fact that you have a straight talk approach in your coaching, because that's really what it takes. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. I've been there. I've done all the technical terms. I've done the programming, the website stuff, behind the scenes, the code that goes there. And the one thing that I've learned is that if you want to grow a business, the customer doesn't care about that. All the customer cares about is, how can you help me get the result that I'm looking for? And can I trust and believe in you? And if you can speak that language and know with integrity your services can deliver the promise that you're offering, that's all that matters. And so for me, I'm very straight talking, and especially in the early stages when I'm dealing with somebody new who needs my help. And, at first I hear them out, I ask them questions and want to find out more about them, which is the key thing, the triage part. And at that point, I just say to people, I say, look, excuse me, but I'm going to be honest with you because I want to help you as fast as possible and point you in the right direction if I can't help you. And people love it because, you know, I don't mince my words in terms of trying to offend somebody, but I really want to show them, here's what's going to happen based on your current situation. And I think it works, Dave.
Yeah, and in my old radio days of sell, I took myself off the air to go into sales. I needed to give myself a raise. And yeah, what I found, and you probably know what I'm talking about when I say you talk about benefits, not features. So people,
100%.
People could not care less, any less about how tall the tower was, the radio tower, how many watts our transmitter had, who the morning drive guy was, and blah blah blah, all this stuff that had nothing to do with anything. So it's called, and you probably know this term. Business owners are listening to WIIFM. What's in it for me, right?
That's right, 100%. And I think the more you can articulate your highest level benefits, the better you are. Obviously, your number one is your unique selling proposition. Most people refer to that, your USP. And the basic thing for everybody listening right now, if you're unclear about what a benefit is very simple. Can your product or service help a person with either time, money, or quality of life, or quality within their business? That's it. If you can tie your benefit to those three things, you will always be in the right direction of what your customer is looking for, because they're looking for one of those three things. And I think that's where a lot of people get wrong. They do get caught up in the advantages or the features, and they think, oh, that's the thing. And especially in a kind of technical world and technology world in this day and age, you know, everything's on the phone and so on. And people lose the fact that actually it's a human operating or using the product or service. And that's who you need to appeal to.
I like this question here, how to overcome marketing strategy overwhelm. I'll tell you, I've been online for, I don't know, 20, 25 years, for way back, and was kind of a DIY guy, do it yourself, and just trying to teach myself and make my way along and progress. But all of the new apps, and every other day there's something new and new things and tools you can use. And then, of course, then you've got your Facebook and your Twitter, or Instagram, and your Pinterest, and blah blah blah.
TikTok.
TikTok is a big deal last year. It's kind of
it's still a big deal right now.
I know. That's crazy. It's how it just took off like a rocket. But marketing strategy overwhelm, because there's so much social media to choose from. How do you overcome all that overwhelm?
You know what, Dave? Like, it's funny you mentioned about all the different things, and similar to you, I've been through, you know, a lot of different things, especially running the marketing agency. And so I was in the thick of always feeling like I needed to stay ahead of the curve with technology and so on. And fortunately, as I kind of stepped into the career of being a marketing coach, I realized that a lot of the times we simply just overcomplicate things. And like, I'm very simple in my approach now. And the biggest thing that I find where people get into marketing strategy overwhelm is to do with their own emotions and misbehaviors. And I'll simplify it because I don't really want to dive too deep for now for this conversation. But a lot of the times it's people don't know where to start, and they get into procrastination, they get into inertia, or they're fearful of making a mistake, or they understand their competitors doing X, but they don't know how to either replicate or even to start in the right direction so they can go beyond the competitors. And so what I find quite often is people lose focus of what the strategy is all about, and it's helping the customer solve the problem. And the way that you get them to notice you is to dangle their desires in front of them. And if you do that with your offer, that's how you get people to take interest in you, because the next step is obviously, well, you've showed me how I can achieve my desired outcome, the wants. How do you help me get past these frustrations? And that's where you start. So for me, with marketing strategy overwhelm, it's because people lose sight of the fact that we need to double down on the niche rather than how great our product is.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the big question in any business where you're marketing something, it involves sales, because everything involves sales.
100%.
Online relationships, you're
Mhm.
selling to your wife which restaurant you want to go to or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's the big question. How do I get more leads? And then, of course, the other big question that comes to mind is, well, what's better, or how do I balance the difference between organic and paid social media?
Yeah, that's the great questions, Dave. So how do I get more leads? There's a very simple method that I use with clients, and I'll give it to your listeners right now. And if anybody is interested listening back to this, I'll give you a link to, I have a 12-minute video that I offer for free, Dave, and it shows people the steps that I'm going to share with you. It's only 12 minutes, but I'm going to give you the very short version. So let's use you as an example, Dave. Who's your type of customer, and what problem do you help them to fix?
Well, that's a great question. My customer are small business owners and
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs who actually need more leads,
Oh, okay. All right,
qualified
great.
leads
So,
specifically.
okay. And just to dive a bit deeper, and I'm going to keep this short, what is the main method that you use to help them get those leads?
Similar to this, I actually will do a paid YouTube interview format. And
Great.
then
I've got it. So I've got it already. So like I said, I'm going to keep this one short because I don't need to dive into too many details. I want everybody to attention to follow what I'm going to say.
yeah,
So let's say you're on Facebook, and let's say you're in a group, in a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group for business owners, and you put a post in there. It can be a text post or it can be a video. And the video would be very short, like you're talking up to 20 seconds. And if it's a text post, it's going to go somewhere along the lines of this. Hey, I've just recorded a video that shows small business owners how to attract more qualified leads using a specialist format on YouTube and podcasts. Would you like to see the video? Comment below. That's it. That's your message. And if you did it in video, it would be the same type of script, but you put it in the specific groups that contain your niche. That's the key. Yeah. And I guarantee you, if you test enough variations of that message, within a month's time, you'll have at least 100 leads. I've got clients who use the same thing, and I've got multiple clients where they've generated 700 plus leads in 3 days. Yeah,
wow.
using that same format. I have 15 variations of that example I just gave you, which I give to my coaching clients, and it works over and over again. The beauty in that, and here's the real killer and part of this, you're never actually recording the video before you put that post out. You always record the video after, because you go for demand. And once there's demand, you go create. So within 24 hours, you create that video. You just fire up Zoom like we're recording right now. You do your video, 10-minute video, and then you publish it, and you respond to everybody who's commented on your post or below your video, whether you put it on Facebook or LinkedIn in the specific niche group. And then once they have the video, you just make sure you have a call to action on the end of the video for people to get in touch with you. That's it. And I'm telling you, it works like gangbusters, Dave.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. Very cool.
And the cool thing is you always create after the fact. So if nobody responds to your first post, you haven't created anything other than the short text or video that you've shared in those groups. And when people do respond, you're going to find what people are looking for and what they respond to. And so it's a method called baking muffins. So you don't bake the full cake, you bake the muffins to test the audience to see where the demand is, where you trigger people. And that's it.
That is powerful. It reminds me of when I interviewed James Mulvaney, who created the Matchmaker software. He didn't spend one dime on it. He just built a Google questionnaire page that he sent out in an email, and didn't spend any money on it because he was doing the what you call it, the baked muffin.
Yeah, baking muffins.
It didn't cost him a penny to find out whether this was going to fly or not. In fact,
there you go.
I have a confession that I ignored his email on that service for about 6 months before I opened it up, and it says, "Oh, I should really do this." And now I'm backed up until October with interviews. So that's powerful.
Awesome.
That's outstanding. And then back to the question about when and where should, now you're talking, that sounds like basically free organic marketing.
Yeah, 100%. And you asked the question about organic or paid. Well, here's the cool thing. If you test that organically, free marketing, that's going to give you clues as to what your audience are looking for. And you can double down on ads, because then you'll know what ads to put in front of your audience, because they will have already shown you the demand in those Facebook groups. You know, there's a lot of great groups on Facebook and LinkedIn where you're talking 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 members. And so those are great testing grounds for you to test demand, as I say. And a lot of people miss that out. And like I said, if you put a post there and it doesn't work on your first post or your 10th post, just know that some of the most successful advertisers in this world have done thousands of advertisements. And so, just look at it as part of the journey. Don't expect to hit the home run on your first video or post. You just got to keep going. And then eventually you're going to hit that nerve and you'll be like, that's what people respond to. And that's where you go into that niche in the market.
I hear you. That's an aha moment right there. That's all about testing and testing some more.
100%. Yep.
Then you really work with people who have service-based businesses as well. Mm-hmm. They're people that are busy probably from dawn to dusk with some of the service-based, especially home services, that kind of stuff. And they might not have the confidence or the know-how. They get frustrated with even having to deal with this at all, first of all, because they're busy doing what they do. So how do you create more sales for service-based businesses?
Yeah, so for service-based businesses, it depends obviously whether they're an online business or offline. I tend to work mostly with online. Yeah, I have a select few offline businesses. Like, for instance, I actually work with one fostering agency right now, which you might just think totally random, but actually it's still a service, right? I've actually got another inquiry from another company in London, actually off the back of the work that I'm doing with them. But the point I want to get to is, a lot of the times, the challenge that you have in business, if you're busy doing your services, is because your business model is wrong. And it's wrong in the sense that you're still trading time for money. You haven't worked out the model where you're able to run the business as a business owner. And there's a trade-off. And if you've not really come across this before, check out the book called The Myth by Michael Gerber. And he talks about the 3 different roles that we have in business. We have the technician, the person who loves to do delivering services. Then you have the manager, and the manager is the person who manages things, organizes things. And then you have the business owner, the visionary, right? The person who has the vision and the plans of how they're going to grow the business. And what tends to happen in a lot of business owners, they take on the role of the technician and manager mostly, always in the business and busy. And what I show my clients is simply how to take that irresistible offer that they have, but to make sure at some point it's going to create leverage whereby they can bring either team members in, so whether they're employed people or whether they're freelancers, outsourcers, virtual assistants. And a lot of the clients that I show is how to create leverage within the marketing system so that they don't have to do it once they've put in a 90 to 180 day stint to create the foundation. Whereas a lot of people just want to abdicate, especially service businesses. They want to pay an agency or they want to pay this, and they don't develop a system. What they develop is a relationship with the company that has the system. And so if you want to create a business that scales, you've got to have the right model. And so for me, the biggest thing, Dave, is making sure that business owners that understand that they're creating a business model that can be leveraged. Because, if you're sick or you're ill and your business stops because you're the bottleneck and you're the only one who delivers, then, that's a challenge for you. And so I simply show people not just the marketing, but actually how they need to think about to scale and grow their business beyond the marketing becoming a success.
Yeah, the E-Myth is a great example of that. It's important, as I learned a long time ago, to creating a winning mindset. So let's address that real quick as the clock ticks down here a little bit. I want to make sure that we covered all the main points.
So I think in terms of the winning mindset, is there anywhere specific you want me to go? Because I can just kind of go off the cuff, but you let me know, Dave.
Well, what did you do to create a winning mindset at 15 years old with a radio station?
That's a great question. You know what? At that point, it was just hunger. There was nothing else. The where I come from, the environment that I grew up in, there wasn't much on offer for me if I stayed within my current surroundings. And I just wanted more. And the more I dived into music, especially at that young age, I just had this appetite. Fast forward to 17, I'm creating a website. I'm doing things that I hadn't learned. I figured it out in the moment. And I think, with youth being on my side, I'm 41 now. With youth being on my side, there wasn't really anything that was stopping me, other than money, perhaps, but I was still able to make my way around, at this young age, and I just figured stuff out. But I guess the winning mindset as a business owner who gets into their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, the key thing that I've found is if I can spot more of my misbehaviors and bad habits, the faster I accelerate. And that's probably been one of the biggest things that I've learned in my 30s to 40s, Dave. A lot of us get caught up in being comfortable, and we don't admit that we have misbehaviors or we have these things that are holding us back. Because often we're looking externally, for instance, the pandemic, coronavirus, our environment, different things outside of our control. We want to blame those things. But the reality is that, we can be as successful as we actually want to, but it really involves understanding psychologically, what trauma do you bring with you? What baggage do you bring with you? And what are you willing to drop? And that's where a lot of people aren't willing to drop it because it's their story, and I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but for me, like now into my 40s, 41, in my second marriage, I'm not saying that I want to get any more, but coming out of a marriage, I have 3 children now, Dave. And I think the biggest thing is really to unlearn the BS that we carry with us as our story and stop protecting the fear that we have, in the back of our minds, because actually what's the point, right? So that's what I work on daily.
Oh, that's very powerful. And you made the point about being a business owner at the same time, not neglecting your responsibilities at home or in your community. And
exactly.
It's a balancing act, but it's possible. It's achievable, because we all know the stories of people, especially where I came from in the Silicon Valley, that were so obsessive compulsive about running their big company, and then the next thing you know, their family was destroyed or whatever.
Exactly.
That BS, which is what I call basic suppositions. That's another way to look at it. But the baggage has got to go, man. Right? The baggage got to go.
That's right.
How can I help you today? You said you've got a link to the 12-minute video you can share. That'd be awesome.
The 12-minute video. The link is basically www.leonstreete. There's an E on the end of street. So leonstreete.com/12, as in the digits 1 and 2. So just go to www.leonstreete.com/12. That's it. Go there. And you just have to pop in your name and email, and you'll get the 12-minute video, and it will walk you through how my clients launched their businesses with 3 to 5K packages and hit 6 figures. And so it's all done in a very short video.
Outstanding. Fantastic. Thanks for being with me. I have one last question that I ask everybody, because I like it. I like this question. What besides the radio gig, what was your very first job ever when you were a kid or a teenager, in terms of working somewhere?
This is a great question. I'll share what my first job was. I worked, so in the UK, we have pubs, right? We don't really call them bars here. They're called pubs. That's
right,
like,
of course.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So my mom, when I was younger, when I was 15, she worked in a pub, and she was the breadwinner, because my father passed away when I was 11. So she worked at the pub, and that's how we survived and lived, right? And coming up to, so this is December as I'm 15. So the next February, I'm 16. So I'm 15, and my mom says, "Hey, Leon, the kitchen at the pub need a helping hand, and I think it would be great for you to get some Christmas money." And so my first job was serving barbecue food at a pub in the UK. And the one cool thing I loved about it is every evening they gave me a free meal that I could take home. And so sometimes I'd be able to take enough for me and my family. So that was really cool. It lasted about 6 weeks. I left there, and then I started working at a sports store selling footwear.
Oh, awesome. That is very cool. I love the stories. You'd be amazed at all the successful people I've talked to when we get that question. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. The stories, you wouldn't believe it. So that's very cool. Well, thank you so much for being with me today, Leon. And this has been very insightful. A lot of gold nuggets, a lot of aha moments here, and we'll get people to check out that video. Of course, that'd be fantastic. So thanks again for being with me today. I truly appreciate it.
Dave, it's been a pleasure. You're a great host, and I've enjoyed my time today. Thank you.